Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Bales. I'm at FantasyLabs looking at our NFL Trends tool. And this is a product that allows you to ultimately try to find value in certain situations in daily fantasy sports. We open up our database of historical stats, performance data, and salary data from the sites to allow you to create specific trends that have historically led to value, then ultimately incorporate those into models that you create on the site to help you pick players. We have pro trends here that I and CSU Ram 88 have created. So we can look at one of those, for example. So this is DraftKings quarterbacks who have thrown at least 40 attempts per game over their past 16 games over the past 12 months. This has a count of 58 based on salaries on those sites and historical performance data. Those players should have been expected to score 18.65 points on DraftKings. They did score 19.85, and so they have what we call a plus minus of 1.20. They've scored 1.20 points above what you'd expect based on their salaries, meaning they've been a bit underpriced. They've reached their salary-based expectation 55.2% of the time. That's basically how often they've reached value. And their average ownership has been 8.2%. So you can save this trend if you'd like to. We'll go back and I'll show you how to create a new trend. So in the top left, you can click create a trend. If you don't know what you're looking for, just name it test. And we'll do sport is NFL. We'll do wide receivers on DraftKings. And so it opens up, you can see the only parameters, the salaries between 0 and 20K, which is every player. There's been a sample of 4,539. That's how many players we have data on historically. Plus minus of 0, obviously. Average expected points, 8.04. Average consistency of a receiver, how often they reach their expectations, 37.4% on DraftKings. Average ownership, 4.7. So we can do something very simple like look at we'll look at all receivers on teams projected to score at least 27 points by Vegas. We click OK. You can see the sample goes down to include maybe the top 15% of receivers or so in terms of their team's projection. Based on their collective salaries on the sites, they've been expected to score 8.8 points. They've scored 8.83, which is basically completely even. It means that they've been priced appropriately by DraftKings. Receivers in this situation haven't really offered too much value. Their consistency is the same, but their ownership actually jumps a whole lot. So this could be some evidence that maybe in tournaments you should actually be targeting receivers on teams projected to not score that many points, who might still be in good situations, have good matchups, and otherwise still have enough upside for you. So we'll remove that and look for a better trend. So we can do something like, we have all sorts of different stats within these categories. So receiving stats and team level stats, player level, Vegas, weather, those related to our projections. So we'll do market share. We'll do market share of targets, which is basically what percentage of a team's targets one player has. We'll do receivers who have at least 20% of their team's targets over the past month. You can see that's roughly maybe the top 22% or so of receivers fall within this category. They've been expected to score 12.59 points on DraftKings. They've actually scored 15.09, so they've on average supplied 2.5 points above what we'd expect based on their costs. Consistency skyrockets, as does ownership. So these are generally popular players. And we can also do player level. So we will pick a player, and then you can look at situations that maybe he's done well or poorly in the past. So pick AJ Green, the first receiver. We have a sample of 29 games from him. You can see that here in the past results. Here are all the games. Average actual points on DraftKings, 17.55, 1.32 plus minus, because he has been slightly underpriced relative to what he's actually scored. And he's been owned an average of 12.5%. So let's look at how there's a narrative that AJ Green does not play well at home. So we'll look at that, and you can see home away splits for AJ Green, and you can actually see he does much better in terms of value, actual points scored, everything on the road. He has a plus minus of 3.7. One thing that we can test is that actually because he's on the road, or is it because the Bengals are generally underdogs on the road? They've been a team that's about average. When they're on the road, they're usually giving up roughly 3 points for not having home field advantage, so they're going to be a dog. And in those situations, they might be throwing more at the end of games. So if we look at when AJ Green is a dog, when the Bengals are an underdog, you see that AJ Green actually scores more points than when he's on the road and has a greater plus minus. And so in this situation, we might want to be targeting AJ Green when he is an underdog, and specifically when he's an underdog at home, because we can potentially get lower ownership on him and still get all of the value that we're looking for. And so you can see he's only been a home dog one time, but that would be a situation where maybe you want to target him to get reduced ownership if everyone's just trying to play him on the road. So when you find a trend that you like, such as AJ Green when the Bengals are a dog, you can click Save a Trend. If you have an account, it'll save for free. You can sign up for an account. You can see all past results. To incorporate it into other tools and to use those tools and to see the current matches, you can upgrade to Pro, and that'll basically allow you to be notified when trends that you create or Pro trends that we've created are applicable to certain players, and you can actually use it in your models to model and backtest how these situations historically actually predict value moving forward.